You seem a man that's positive and yet slightly pessimistic. What's the difference between all this policy we're having about net zero and you fear the realities of delivering it?
Yeah, I mean, we love policy. It's a bit like loving strategy in the company. That's the exciting bit. Delivery is the hard graft, and it's the most difficult part. And I think that's the challenge we face. What is good is that I think many people now think net zero 2050, yep, that sounds a great thing to try and achieve. Well, that's a good vision to have. The real challenge now is what is the program of delivery? What are the objectives, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? What is the program to get us from where we are today to there? And that's the challenge. That's the difficult part. It's going to require a lot of government making real decisions, not just warm words, and it's going to be industry willing to take up those challenges. It's going to be the regulators having to work out how best to interpret what government's asking them to do and facilitate that drive and those incentives which are going to be necessary for industry to take up. And of course, we as consumers are all part of this, so we need to understand what's being asked of us, how best our behaviours can actually go towards contributing to net zero.
Are you frustrated? You run the National Infrastructure Commission. You look at the plans that you're trying to integrate energy with transport and basic infrastructure. Do you get frustrated at these warm words? You seem to have been on the stage.
Yeah, it is frustrating when people agree with you that the principle of what you're saying is right, but then you can't see the follow-through to that agreement in the form of national policy statements or clear regulatory changes which are necessary, radical regulatory changes sometimes, which are necessary from government to deliver these.
Is that a failure of government itself? Ministers not listening to you? Or what?
I think it's ministers having a whole series of things to deal with at any one point in time, and where is the priority? There will always be other voices, and so if you're a minister, you've got 10 different people all giving you slightly different opinions, and how do you find the balance in the middle of that? You've got your budgetary constraints, and there are only so many hours in the day. And so that is the challenge, and I think it's the most difficult part of government, is how do I change my bright ideas and things I'd like to do into actually delivering.
My final question, it's a bold plan, and you talked about smart meters, one of those things that was a bold plan that didn't deliver. Do we have the capability to get to net zero, and how do you see energy as part of the infrastructure play moving forward?
Energy is the most important infrastructure play. Energy is at the centre of absolutely everything which happens. And one of our challenges, in fact, to help the public understand that energy is the most critical thing, that they use it, their lives are dependent on it. Politicians follow public opinion largely, rather than lead it, and therefore I think that is why I lay so much emphasis on trying to inform the public in the right way, so that they in turn will put pressure on politicians. But no, this can be done. I'm sure it can be done. But it will require an enormous sort of shift in the way we do things in this country. And it's getting this, we hate actually setting new standards. And one of the problems, I think, is government confuses regulation with standards. And what we have to do is set ourselves clear, improved standards to achieve, and say to ourselves, in 5 years' time we're going to get there, in 10 years' time we're going to get there. People will invest if they can see consistency of policy, if they can see that these standards are going to be there for the long term, so it's a level playing field. They're not being disadvantaged. So I think a key thing for us is to get government to understand there is nothing wrong with setting very ambitious targets, setting them in legislation, and then letting the private sector, competition and innovation deliver those standards.